Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something really fun today.
Yeah.
A question that's been debated for years, basically since the game came out. How do you actually build, like, the ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 2 team?
Oh, yeah. It's a big one. It's one of those things that everyone has an opinion on.
Exactly. And, there's no right or wrong answer, but there are definitely some interesting approaches, and that's what this whole deep dive is about.
Right on, right on.
So the whole thing actually started with a conversation between two friends, Alex and Max Wright. And they've been going back and forth about which three characters are the absolute best in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, who you got to have on your team. And Alex, he's like all about the strategy. He wants like the most powerful team possible.
Okay, yeah.
But Max, he's more about, the fun factor.
Yeah. I know those guys. Like, you got the guy who wants to win at all costs, and then you have the guy who wants to win, but only if he's having a good time. Right?
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about this whole debate, right? It gets to the heart of what makes a fighting game fun. Like, is it about just winning? Or is there something to be said for style and a bit of unpredictability?
Yeah, for sure. Like, what are you actually trying to get out of the game?
Okay, so let's start with Alex's side. He's got this team that he calls the Holy Trinity.
Ooh.
Right. And this team, it's Magneto, Storm, and Sentinel.
Okay. Strong team.
Yeah. Heavy hitters for sure.
Yeah, you can definitely see why he's so confident with that lineup. I mean, Magneto, he's got the projectiles. He can control the whole screen. And then there's his, infamous ROM infinite combo. Like, he's a staple in a lot of competitive teams.
Yeah, the ROM infinite. Now, for anyone listening who hasn't spent, way too much time in training mode, what makes that combo so, game-breaking?
It's not really just a combo. It's more like a game changer, right? So ROM, that stands for Roundhouse, Overhead, Magneto. And if you pull it off correctly, you can actually lock your opponent into this crazy loop, like they can't escape, and their health bar just disappears.
Whoa!
Yeah, and that right there, that can turn a whole match around.
Okay, so Alex is all about that raw power with Magneto, right? But you said even Magneto has weaknesses.
Oh, for sure. I mean, no one's invincible, right? In Marvel versus Capcom 2. Even Magneto, like, he can have some trouble with characters who can get in close, mess up his whole flow.
I see.
Yeah, and that's where Sentinel comes in.
Sentinel. Now, I got to admit, that guy, he always intimidated me a little bit. Like, he's so huge.
Well, yeah, that's part of what makes him so effective, right? Intimidation factor.
Uh-huh, yeah.
But seriously, Sentinel is like a tank, He's
Right.
got so much health, he can take a ton of damage. And, he might not be the fastest guy on his feet, but he makes up for it in the air. Like, his rocket punches, his flight, that makes him surprisingly mobile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's like Magneto's bodyguard. He soaks up the damage while Magneto sets up those big combos. That's cool.
Exactly.
So what about Storm? Where does she fit into this holy trinity?
Right. So Storm, she brings the control element, She's really good at keeping opponents away, especially with her lightning attacks. And her triangle jump can be really, really tricky for the other player.
Triangle jump. That sounds a little technical.
Yeah. It's a technique where Storm jumps diagonally, and it makes her so much harder to predict. Like, is she coming in? Is she getting out? What's she gonna do?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that gives her a ton of options, to approach, to escape, to mix things up. It keeps the opponent guessing.
So Alex has got all his bases covered, right?
Okay.
Magneto for damage, Sentinel for defense, and Storm for control.
Right on.
Sounds like a well-oiled machine designed to just win.
Right, and that's exactly what Alex is going for. A team built on synergy, pure strategy, being able to control the pace of the entire match. But Max has a totally different idea about what makes a team the best,
Yeah. All right. Let's hear about team fun then. What are they bringing to the table?
So Max, he's all about keeping things interesting, shaking things up. He's less worried about raw power, more about keeping the opponent on their toes, right? And his team is Chun-Li.
Okay.
Jill Valentine.
What? Wait, Jill Valentine, like the one from Resident Evil?
Yep, that's the one.
Interesting.
Max loves that surprise factor, right? She's got this move, the light grenade, and it can be so unexpected, especially if you're used to fighting, more straightforward characters.
Yeah, I see.
It's not going to do a ton of damage, but it's all about messing with the other player's rhythm, throwing them off.
So he's throwing curveballs right from the start. All right, what about Chun-Li then? Why is she a good fit for this team?
So actually, Alex argued that Chun-Li's damage just isn't, as high as some of the other top-tier characters. But Max made a really good point. He loves her mobility, and he's obsessed with the spectacle of her Senenshu hyper combo.
Senenshu. I'm sensing a theme here. So break it down for me. What's so special about this move?
It's just this like this rapid fire flurry of kicks that sends the opponent flying across the screen, right?
I can picture it.
It might not be the most practical combo for like raw damage, but it looks so cool and it just feels so good to land it.
Ah, I see. So it's all about that fun factor, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's about the experience as much as anything else.
So he's not just picking characters, he's like curating, you know?
Yeah.
He wants to enjoy the fight, even if it means giving up a little bit of power.
That's interesting. What about Wolverine?
Oh, right. Wolverine. He might be the most unpredictable of them all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's all about aggression, getting up close and personal, just unleashing this barrage of attacks. Maz describes him as a berserker brawler.
I like it. Someone who just doesn't let up. You know?
Okay, yeah, so I'm seeing the contrast here.
Yeah.
You've got Alex, who's all about that control and precision. And then we have Max, who wants chaos and unpredictability.
Right.
But can that actually work? Like, in a game as competitive as Marvel versus Capcom 2?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? We've got two totally different approaches to team building, each with their own pros and cons. So how do we figure out which one is really better? So let's dig a little deeper into these teams and see how they actually work. You know what I mean? Like what makes them tick. We were talking about Alex's Holy Trinity, right? Magneto, Storm, and Sentinel. It's all about control and just like overwhelming power.
But it's more than just like picking strong characters.
Yeah.
Right? There's like a real strategy here. So what's like the thought process behind Alex's choices?
Okay, so Alex, he gets that Marvel versus Capcom too. It's all about momentum. He wants to control the pace of the whole match, right? Dictate like when and where the fight happens and never give the opponent a chance to breathe.
And that's where the ROM Infinite comes in. It's not just a flashy combo. It's like a strategic weapon.
Exactly. The ROM Infinite, it's about like way more than just damage. It's a statement, Like imagine you're the opponent, right? You finally get in close, you land a few hits, you think you're gaining the upper hand, and then boom, you're stuck in this loop and your health bar is just melting away.
Yeah, it's got to be demoralizing.
Oh, for sure. And that's when Sentinel steps in. He's not just a damage sponge, he's like a wall, right? He stops the opponent from even getting close to Magneto to break up his setup. Yeah. He's so big, he's got so much health, and he's way more mobile than you think, especially in the air.
So he's like the ultimate deterrent. You want to go after Magneto, but Sentinel's in your way? Like, come on then, let's go.
Exactly. And then you got Storm just adding another layer of control.
Right.
She's keeping the opponent off balance. Those lightning attacks make it so risky to even get close. And then her triangle jump, man, it's like throws a wrench in everything.
Yeah, because you can't predict her movements at all.
Exactly. Is she coming in? Is she running away? Who knows?
I'm starting to see why Alex calls this the Holy Trinity. They cover each other so well. And it just seems like an unstoppable force.
Right. It's like tailor-made for tournaments, for those high-pressure matches where, like, every single decision matters.
Right.
But let's not forget about Max's team. They might not have that same raw power, but they bring something else to the table, the element of surprise.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how Max's team actually works in a match.
Yeah.
It seems less about brute force and more about like keeping the opponent guessing.
It's a whole different kind of strategy, for sure. One that depends on breaking the opponent's expectations and then, like, pouncing on their mistakes, Like, take Jill Valentine. Her light grenade, it doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's like, it's so weird. It's so unexpected.
Yeah. It's like a curveball in baseball.
Exactly. And that little hesitation, that moment where the other player's like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Max is looking for. It creates openings for Chun-Li,
Oh, right, because Chun-Li's so fast.
Yeah. Exactly. She might not hit the hardest, but she's so hard to pin down.
And her Senenshu hyper combo.
Oh, yeah. Don't forget about that. Even if it doesn't do a ton of damage, it's so visually impressive. It can really mess with an opponent's head. It's like she's saying, I can do this all day, and I'm going to make it look good.
Yeah, it's about style. Sending the message. Like, hey, you might be winning, but you're going to have to work for it. And then you got Wolverine.
Oh, yeah, Wolverine. He's the embodiment of chaos, right? He's all aggression, getting in close and just overwhelm the opponent with so many attacks. He might not have the range of some of the other characters, but he's just relentless.
So he's like the wild card, the unpredictable element.
Exactly. You never know what he's going to do next, and that's what makes him so dangerous.
And that's the beauty of Max's team, right? They might not have the perfect synergy of the Holy Trinity, but they make up for it with unpredictability. Like
Yeah,
they keep the other player on edge the whole time.
exactly.
But we have these two very different approaches here.
Yeah,
Alex is about control, precision, power.
right.
And Max is about chaos, surprise, and just the joy of the unexpected,
Totally.
So how do these philosophies actually play out in a real match?
Well, that's what we're going to get into in the final part of our deep dive. We'll put these two teams head to head, break down their strengths and weaknesses, and see if we can figure out which approach comes out on top.
Okay, so we've broken down both teams, we've looked at their strategies, and now it's time for the main event. Team strategy versus team fun. Who wins this thing?
That's the big question, right? I mean, it's not really as simple as saying one team is just straight up better.
Right.
It really comes down to who's playing, their skill levels, how they approach the match.
So it's not just about, the characters on paper. It's about the players behind them, how they adapt, how they take advantage of the game's mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. Like, think about a match between these two teams. Alex, with his Holy Trinity, he'd probably start strong, right? Magneto controlling the screen, Sentinel blocking everything, Storm keeping the opponent away. He'd try to just dominate right from the beginning.
But Max wouldn't just let that happen, would he?
No way. Max is all about disrupting that, throwing a wrench in the works. Jill's light grenade to mess with Alex's timing. Chun-Li, so fast she'd find openings. And Wolverine, that constant pressure turned the whole thing into a crazy brawl.
So it's like a battle of styles, right? Control versus chaos, precision versus just pure unpredictability. Who has the edge in that kind of fight?
It's tough to say, man. If Alex plays perfectly, he might just overpower Max. But if Max can disrupt him, find those openings, capitalize on any mistakes.
And you can pull off the upset.
Exactly.
So there's no clear winner. It all depends on the players and how they adapt.
And that's what makes Marvel vs. Capcom 2 so great. It's not just about picking the best characters. It's about understanding the game at a deeper level, The mechanics, the strategy, finding what works for you.
And having fun. We can't forget, Max's whole philosophy is about enjoying the game.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the best team is the one you have the most fun with, whether you're winning tournaments or just enjoying the ride.
So what's the big takeaway from this deep dive into Marvel vs. Capcom 2?
There's no one right answer, What works for one person might not work for another. Find a team that fits your style, your goals, how you understand the game.
And there's more than one way to be successful. If you like a strategic approach, great. If you're more about chaos and unpredictability, that's awesome too. There's a place for everyone in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
That's it. So next time you're playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, don't just pick your favorite characters. Think about your strategy, your play style, what you want to do, and most importantly, have fun.
That's all for this deep dive. We hope you learned something new about building your dream Marvel vs. Capcom 2 team. And hey, maybe you're even inspired to create your own. Thanks for listening.